Every man wants to be trusted with love, I think. And we want to be seen. We want to be chosen. We want to be with someone that we can lean on, right? But wanting to be trusted with love and actually knowing how to lead with love, I think these are two very different things. Most of us, we were never taught the difference. We were taught to chase love, yes. We were taught to impress love, to perform for love. We were never taught how to steward love. We were told that being a man meant providing, protecting, showing up. But no one showed us how to do any of that without burning out, without controlling, without disappearing when things got too real. So we started mixing up leadership with control and love with comfort. And the hard truth is, love isn't leadership until it costs you something. If love never stretches you, it's not love. That's leisure, right? If love never confronts your ego, it's not love. That's entertainment. If love never asks you to grow, that's not love. That's a hobby. And deep down, we know that we're built for more than hobbies. At Bintegers, we keep coming back to the same core, and that's integrity and intimacy. And these two are not opposites. They are two pillars of sacred investment. Integrity is what builds your structure, and intimacy builds your sensitivity. So structure without sensitivity, that's cold. And sensitivity without structure is like chaos. But when both of these grow together, something rare happens, and that is you become a man who can lead through love without losing himself. See, without integrity, your love is inconsistent. And without intimacy, your leadership can be harsh. But this investment is what happens when both of these are mutually there and maturing. It's when your love has a backbone and your leadership has heart. And this is, I think, where most of us were shortchanged. So we were conditioned to chase after connection without capacity. We want love, but we really don't want to build the muscles to carry it, right? We want loyalty, but we don't want to train ourselves to be reliable. We want partnership, but we don't develop patience. We want trust, but we don't practice the necessary consistency. We've been sold this fantasy of getting the relationship that we want without becoming the man that love can actually rely on. This sacred investment doesn't let us off that easy. Sacred investment to me means that we stop seeing love as something that we fall into and start seeing it more as a function that we commit to. We stop treating connection like this prize and now start treating it like a responsibility. We stop asking, do I feel love today? And start instead asking, how am I loving today? Love as a feeling, it's going to come and go. But love as a practice is what builds lives. And when love becomes leadership, everything starts shifting quietly under the surface, if you will. You stop performing affection and now you start practicing alignment. You stop demanding loyalty and start actually earning it. You stop trying to manage people and now you start multiplying their sense of worth by how you're showing up. You don't just say, I got you, but you build a life that actually proves it. And the problem is most of us, we never saw this modeled. We grew up watching authority without accountability. And we watched possession instead of partnership. We saw anger far more than we saw apologies. We saw decisions that were made from pride more than decisions made from wisdom. And so we learned that leadership was about being obeyed, not about being responsible. We learned that love was something that you had to win, not something to work at, right? I mean, no one told us that real love is a daily investment, not a moment of victory. And that's why I think so many of us men are emotionally bankrupt. We spent everything chasing validation and we've left nothing for building value. We've poured energy into traction and almost none for readiness, right? This investment flips that script completely. It says, I'm not here to consume you. I'm here to build with you. Not to use your presence to feel better about myself, but to use my presence to make this space safer and deeper and more honest. That's the shift from consumption to stewardship. Leadership through love does not start with a relationship. It starts with you. And you can't lead anyone where you yourself are refusing to go. You can't ask for honesty when you're hiding things. You can't demand loyalty while emotionally you're absent. See, sacred investment is this simple and this brutal. You don't walk away when it gets hard. You just deepen your roots. You don't punish people for having pain. You protect what's still pure inside of them. You don't disappear when emotions get messy. You build emotional muscle that's strong enough to stay present without getting swallowed up. No, love is not a way out. Love is really a way through. It is not escape, it's stewardship. It's the daily work of asking, is my presence adding weight or adding wisdom? Am I leaving this person lighter or clear or more themselves? Or am I leaving them more confused with self-doubts than they had before? Men keep asking, how do I get her to trust me, right? But that's the wrong question. The real question is, am I building a life that deserves to be trusted? Trust is built from one thing, I'd say, and that's consistency. Not in how intense you can be when you're excited, but more so in how reliable you are when you're tired. I mean, anyone can impress, right? But very few men invest. Sacred investment is showing up after the rush has faded. It's doing what's right when no one's clapping for you. It's staying kind when you feel misunderstood. It's being dependable when no one is watching, right? That's the kind of man people want to build futures with. See, leadership through love means that you're shifting from control to clarity. Control says, do what I say so that I can feel safe. But love-led clarity says, here's who I am, and here's how I want to show up, and here's what I'm willing to carry alongside with you. Control is about fear, but love is about faith. Control tries to win every moment, right? Love is willing to lose the argument to protect that connection. And sacred investment doesn't just transform these relationships, it transforms one identity. Because the moment that you decide that I'm going to lead through love, it's then that you're signing up for a fight with your own ego. You'll have to meet the lazy parts of yourself that want comfort far more than character. You'll have to face the angry parts of yourself that want to dominate, right, instead of listen. You'll have to sit in the midst of your insecurity that wants to run every time things get real. And that's where most men bow out. They feel that inner resistance and they say, I'm out. This is too much. This is too emotional. This is too hard. But if you stay, if you push past that urge to escape, something important breaks open and on the inside. And that's you become reliable in a world that's built on replacement. Anyone can be exciting, but very few can be counted on. That's leadership. That's a real man's love that doesn't just show up when it's easy. It shows up also when it's awkward, when it's inconvenient, when it's unglamorous. And sacred investment is what looks a lot like emotional discipline. You respond instead of reacting, right? You pause before you explode. You name what you feel instead of trying to make someone else carry it. It looks like financial integrity, where you manage what you have instead of blaming what you don't. You don't use money to control, you use money to contribute. And it looks like spiritual depth, where you learn to listen before you lead. You stop acting like you're the center of the universe, and you start behaving now like a steward of what you've been given. See, love is not loud. Love is long. Longevity doesn't just come from passion. It comes from reverence, from treating love like something sacred and not disposable. See, love will test your leadership. It will expose how impatient you really are. It'll show you where your confidence was just control. It will reveal whether your kindness is real or just a strategy. Because love doesn't really care about your speeches. It remembers your patterns. And leadership without love is what turns into control, right? But love without leadership turns into chaos. Sacred investment is, I think, where both of these can actually grow. To invest in someone doesn't really mean that you lose yourself. It means that you're aiming for yourself. You're aligning your power with purpose, and you're directing your time and your energy and your attention and even your strengths into something that outlives your mood. And you stop asking, what am I getting out of this? And instead you start asking, what am I building towards? And people who cross your path should be able to say, oh, being in his world made me more me, not smaller, not silenced, not scared, but more myself. That's the kind of leadership that doesn't drain you. It actually develops you. Because every act of real love builds you from the inside out. And this is the paradox of sacred investment. And it is the more that you give wisely, the more that you're able to grow deeply. And at some point, every man, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and ask, am I leading from ego or from empathy? See, our ego wants to be the hero in every story, whereas empathy wants to understand the story before it acts. Ego just needs to be right. Ego wants what's true, right? Our ego just wants to impress, but our empathy is really wanting to influence. And sacred investment is where empathy has a spine. Compassion doesn't necessarily collapse, and softness has structure to it, because leadership without boundaries is not love. That is people pleasing. And love without truth is not sacred. That's just sentiment, right? And the world doesn't really need more sentiment. It needs more solid men who don't just rush in when everything gets romantic and new. It needs men who are there when things are confusing. Men who are there when things are slow, when things are boring, when life is just dishes and bills and emotions and just a daily grind. And it's this man who doesn't lead by manipulating, he actually leads by modeling. He teaches by being what he talks about. Leadership is not just a title, right? It's a posture. It's not about having power over other people. It's more about having responsibility for the space that you share with those people. And sacred investment is really not about saving anyone, because that's savior complex, right? No, sacred investment is about serving something that's bigger than your ego, like healing and honesty and peace and growth. And when you love as a leader, you're planting seeds that you may never see fully bloom. You might never get the credit for it. You might never get the applause, but you still plant anyway. Because that's what integrity does. Real men don't lead for the spotlight. Real men lead for legacy. And legacy is nothing mystical. It's the echo of your daily choices. It's what you repeat that becomes what you leave behind. So if you want to know the kind of man that you are becoming, look at where you're investing yourself. What is it that gets your time? What gets your attention? What gets your emotional energy charged up? Because what you're investing in is really revealing what you worship. And if all of your investment goes into your ego, into being right, into being admired, into being in control, don't be shocked if your life feels lonelier and more hollow the older you get. But when your investment flows into integrity and intimacy, into truth and tenderness and presence and patience, I mean, everything around you starts to grow. And your relationships get safer. Your mind gets clearer. Your body relaxes more. Your future stops feeling like a question mark and now starts feeling a lot more like a sense of directive purpose, that's sacred leadership. That's sacred investment. And it's a slow process. It's not showy. It doesn't always feel epic. It looks like texting back when you'd rather just shut down. It looks like owning your mistakes when you'd rather defend it. It looks like listening all the way through when you'd rather interrupt, or resting when you'd rather just numb out. It looks like telling the truth when you'd rather protect your image. See, it's not glamorous work. It's work that brings growth, though, and you can't fake it. You either carry it or you're still building it. And if you're still building it, that's good. It means that you're honest. I have this course on my website, In the Ashes of the Alpha Male, where I want to walk you step by step through this process. So learning how to move from ego-led performance into love-led performance so that your leadership becomes something more that your nervous system can actually sustain. Instead, it's something that you have to pretend that you have. And you'll find all that at uberbintegers.com. So go check that out there if you are ready for the deeper work. Because at the end of the day, I would say sacred investment is not about being nice. It's about being responsible with power, with your own heart, responsible with people's hearts, with the spaces that you take up and occupy. Love becomes leadership when it starts building what your pride once used to hide. When you stop trying to control what's hard and start committing now to what's holy. When you choose to be shaped by truth instead of being shielded by your ego. When you finally understand this simple line, and that is, to love well is to lead well. And that's where we're headed in our next episode. So I think this is probably one of our final episodes here in this series this month, where we're going to step into the real men renaissance, where we want to shift from shame to stewardship. Because sacred investment is where leadership begins, but stewardship is where the real legacy is born. So join me for that episode tomorrow. Thanks for sticking around till this point in this episode today. And drop me a comment down below. Let me know how this landed for you. Give me ideas that I forgot to mention or insights that you got along the way. I'd love to hear from you. See you tomorrow.